Today, this Audi might finally turn a wheel under its own power again. I'm doing a full Quattro manual swap on my Audi A4, and today I'm fitting some of the biggest pieces of the project so far: the gearbox, the clutch and the drive shafts. Hopefully we'll get some movement. Cold. If you're new here, I've already stripped the Quattro running gear from a salvage car and I've pulled the CVT transmission from this A4. So today is the moment we're going to find out if this swap is actually going to work.
There's a few things I want to do before attempting to fit the clutch and gearbox. One of those is fitting the hydraulic clutch lines, and that means I need to fit the pedal assembly, brake booster and master cylinder. Removing these from the donor car wasn't fun, so I'm not excited for this. After sucking out the brake fluid from the reservoir, which was clearly long overdue a change, I need to remove its retaining bolt, and then it can be popped out of the rubber grommets. The brake pipes heading off to the ABS pump are easy to remove using a 13mm spanner, and the vacuum fitting in the booster pulls out easily. Access is frustratingly tight here, so I'm going to separate the master cylinder from the booster and hope I can get everything out without too much hassle. Two 22mm nuts hold the cylinder onto the booster, and the E10 bolts go through the centre of the nut and a sleeve through the booster, securing the whole setup to the pedal assembly via the firewall. Clever. Once everything is loose up top, I need to disconnect the brake pedal from the booster push rod. This is a case of loosening a jam nut on the adjuster rod upside down, backwards and in the dark of the footwell. Once it's free, I can turn the adjuster until the push rod is out, and that should be the brake booster ready to remove. While I'm down here, I'm not going to need the auto footrest, so that's removed by undoing three 10mm nuts. Pulling the master cylinder and brake booster out is a really fiddly job. I ended up removing the wiper arms and the scuttle trim and the brace tucked behind the engine bay firewall to give me just enough clearance to pull them out.
Well, this was an absolutely horrible job, and as you can see, I had to drop the steering column to get the pedal box and pedal assembly out. I parked too close to the wall, so I couldn't undo the door, open the door fully. And then over here we can see you have to take the full brake booster and master cylinder out because it bolts into the pedal box. But down here we have the CVT or automatic system here, pedal box, master cylinder, reservoir and booster. And then very similar but also very different is the manual setup here. We can see we've got a clutch switch that we don't have on the auto, which I'll have to wire in. I do have the plug for it, and it's only 2 wires, so that shouldn't be a problem. Other than that, everything looks very much the same. The boosters have the same part numbers, as do the master cylinder, and the only difference I can see on the reservoir is we have the opening for the feed into the clutch slave cylinder, clutch master cylinder, which of course we don't have on the automatic.
Fitting the manual pedal box is straightforward enough, and the holes needed for the clutch pipework just need the grommets removed. It all lines up as expected and mounts to the same fixing points with the same hardware. The clutch line to the slave cylinder and grommet I saved from the donor car fit neatly as they should, and the feed line along with its grommet does the same. After fighting the brake booster and master cylinder back in, the day draws to a close. It's time to get this gearbox in, starting with a new flywheel and clutch kit. I've opted for a solid flywheel conversion and standard clutch for now. I plan to upgrade this for a performance clutch at a later stage, and this is just to get on the road as a Quattro. A new pilot bearing is tapped into the crank. And yes, I haven't changed the rear main seal. It's not leaking, but if and when it eventually does, it will be time for a performance clutch and a billet main seal housing. The CVT and manual plate things are almost identical, so I'll clean up and use the donor cars and fit it in before the flywheel. Once the flywheel bolts are nipped up evenly in a star pattern, the flywheel rotation is locked with a universal locking tool, and the bolts torqued to 60 Newton meters plus 90 degrees, again in a star pattern, making sure it's flat and true. I use a cheap universal clutch alignment tool, and it's always done a good job at centering the friction and pressure plates if you're careful and you keep an eye.
We're making good progress towards installing the gearbox, and the next task is to replace the thrust bearing on the clutch arm and replace the fluids in the gearbox. I need to make a decision whether I use this bell housing spacer that came off the 2.0 engine with this gearbox. There isn't one on the 1.8 as far as I can tell, and there definitely wasn't one on this CVT, so I need to make a decision whether that is required for spacing out with the solid flywheel. It may be a case of offering it up without the spacer and seeing if the bell housing is going to hit the flywheel, or if the spacer is needed to clear it.
Before I manhandle the gearbox in place, I want to get the shifter mechanism loosely fitted so I don't struggle with it later. This is an exciting moment in the transition.
The gearbox is in, and it actually went quite smoothly, which is a good sign that the clutch splines are correctly aligned and the bell housing spacer plate was the right decision. I have had to use the original starter motor and not the one from the donor car. The donor car one was too long and is fouling the turbo oil drain pipe. I'm not going to know if this starter motor is going to work unless I try and turn the engine over. So I've disconnected the coil plugs and I've got the battery on charge, and we're going to see if that makes a horrible noise or if it turns over nicely. Well, that's obviously not working. I'm not even getting the solenoid on the starter firing, so I suspect there's something else at play here, probably in electronics, programming in the ECU. It probably still thinks it's a CVT because I haven't changed that yet, and it's looking for clutch or brake or the selector lock, the lockout on the brake system to enable me to start the car. So I'm going to plug in the laptop, fire up VCDS and see if we can change a few bits and get the starter to fire.
Before that, however, it occurred to me to test the starter motor and its engagement on the flywheel directly. I saved the signal wire from the donor car and I can use this to jump the 12 volts to the solenoid. Now we know the starter is good and it engages correctly, we can move on to tell the car about its new lifestyle. Having updated the dash in the last video, I now need to tell the engine control unit that it's a manual Quattro. In VCDS, this is a simple coding in the same manner as the instrument cluster. We need to change the 8 for continuously variable transmission to 1 for a 6-speed manual. I'm going to leave the ASR coding alone for now as I need to do some more research. To apply the new code, I need to enter a workshop code of 12345 and an importer number of 123. It won't be accepted with zeros. As far as I know, these are just arbitrary values. Coding accepted is exactly the right answer. While I'm here, I'm going to run a throttle adaptation for good measure. Before going any further, I want to secure the gearbox and get the subframe and suspension reassembled. Now I know the starter works, I don't need the access from underneath. While the access is still good, I'm going to refit the catalytic converter. I want to make a custom catback exhaust, so separating the downpipe will be easiest now. A few seconds with a cutting disc removes the rusted nuts and saves time fighting them. The Quattro drive shafts are going to need some attention. A couple of the CV boots are split, and I hate changing these, so I'll order some new shafts at a later date and not worry about it again. For now, these shafts go on so we can test. Getting the subframe back in place took some time, loosening and removing mounts, jacking and levering and general faff, which I'll spare you from. The interesting part is in the subframe alignment, which uses 3 tabs and a pin. The official tool for this is over £100, so I had my son 3D print a pair of the same dimensions. The idea being the pin should fit cleanly through all 3 holes when the subframe is aligned. It's tricky and I've not got it perfect, so it's on the list to revisit another time. Now working topside, I refit the airbox and sensors, and notice I'm missing a hose from the brake reservoir to the clutch feed pipe. A small offcut of fuel hose will do for testing purposes, but the correct EDPM hose has been ordered.
So the suspension arms, shocks and anti-roll bar are all bolted up. I will torque them to spec once I've got the car on wheels and under its own weight. But while the car is up and before I put the wheels on, I want to change the gearbox oil. I can't remember if I emptied it, but it needs a change anyway. And I've got 5 litres of 75/90 gear oil. So we're going to chuck in the required amount. But before we do that, got to get under and drain it. I should actually have undone this fill plug before the drain plug, because now if I can't undo it, I can't fill the gearbox. Perhaps if you do it the right way, Rob. There we go. So now my task is to try and get the thing running. As promised in this video, I'm not going to end until I get the wheels turning, albeit just the front ones. So the CVT has an interlock to stop you starting the car when it wasn't in park or neutral. And also there's one on the brake. So it's foot on the brake and make sure it's in park or neutral in order to start the car. Now without the CVT, it's not going to know that the gearbox is in neutral. And this is the CVT connector to the transmission control module. And having a look on the wiring diagram, there's one wire from this that is the interlock signal to the relay, which sits under the ECU in the, they call it the E-box, which is a watertight box in the engine bay. So I'm going to try and open this connector, see if we can find the brown wire with a grey tracer, put that to earth or just ground it and see if we can start the engine. That would be a very simple fix. The other way is to bypass the relay altogether, and the best way would be to reconfigure it so that it's on a clutch switch. But for now, the goal, just get it started. Proof of concept, if you like. So I'm going to open this connector and see what we can do. None of these wires are corresponding with the wiring diagram, so I'm going to go with the first option, or one of the other options, and bypass the relay under the ECU here, which should be a case of just grounding out the wire to trigger the relay. So this is the relay box and fuses for the main ECU, and it lives under it in this box here. And the relay I'm interested in is 369, which in the wiring diagram is reference K55, and this one's a dual circuit, so we've got the interlock and the brake from the automatic CVT before it will allow us to start the engine. So what we're looking for here is a brown and grey wire, which on the diagram is what we want to bring to earth to trigger the solenoid, and that looks like it there. If it will focus, brown grey, this little one here. So we need to touch that to earth or to ground, and we'll see if it will allow us to start the engine.
Rather than messing with the loom, I made some jumper cables to bypass the relay from 50A to 50Z and 15 to RF. And now, the moment of truth.
Yes!
The car won't run because the coils are unplugged, which is soon solved, but would it actually start? It's misfiring because I didn't fully plug in coil 1, and of course there's no exhaust, but it runs, and I am very, very happy. My goal for the last 2 days has been to get the wheels turning under Quattro power, and now is the real test. The clutch isn't bled, the gearbox is unproven. It's an open diff, and we've no drive to the rear wheels, but we do have drive to the front, and that, my friends, is a win.
It's alive. We've got the engine running and a wheel turning for the first time as a manual, but not quite a Quattro. There's still a lot to do, including connecting the gearbox to the rear axle with a prop shaft, full exhaust system, and finding a permanent solution for my interlock bypass. So next time, the goal is to get all 4 wheels turning and the car moving properly under its own power. If you want to see this Audi continue its transformation into a proper Quattro, don't forget to subscribe. The next video will be linked at the end of this one as soon as it's live. Thanks for watching.